Hi, I'm Chase Stanton. I'm the station manager here at SCTN, and I'm joined by Tran Longmore from the Saline Post. And this is the first episode of the Saline Post show. So this is a new show we're going to try out where we talk about some of the biggest news stories from the previous week. And if you have ideas about it or comments and want to reach us, you can go to sctn.org for me or thesalinepost.com for Tran and let us know what you think. And we're going to be doing this every week from now on, so hopefully you like it. So why don't we get started, Tran? And biggest news story probably is the election.
Yeah, the big story in Saline last week was the election. Mayor Brian Morrow was elected, re-elected by a historic margin. Councilors David Rhodes and Dean Gearbaugh were re-elected, and newcomer Janet Dillon was elected. And I think the big story was really by how much the margin of victory for Mayor Morrow. It was a historic victory. He got 68% of the vote, which has never been done before in Saline's mayoral history. And we talked to him a little bit about that and other things after last night's city council meeting.
Yeah, it's a landslide.
Yep, for sure.
So what did he have to say when you talked to him about it?
Brian said that, I think Brian took it as a victory for what council has done for the last 2 years. He saw it as sort of a mandate that I think that Saline voters like what they saw in the last 2 years, and they want to see more of it. And in particular, he talked about that, or he thinks voters responded to him personally to a certain extent because he returns all of his phone calls. When somebody calls him with an issue, he gets them an answer. Whether they like the answer or not, he makes sure he addresses it, and he gets with people, and he thinks people have responded to that. And he also thinks people have responded to his 5-point agenda, and I hope I can remember all 5 points. It was public safety, public infrastructure, financial stewardship, and there's 2 more that I can't remember off the top of my head, but I think he saw that as a public mandate, and we've got some video here of Brian talking about his first 2 years in office.
I think one, people respond very positively to how accessible, how engaged I am in the community. I'm very visible. I have a reputation of returning phone calls and emails and responding when people have questions and concerns. Secondly, I think people responded to my vision, which is focusing on those 5 critical key areas that are essential to Saline's short-term and long-term success. And I think the other thing that people really like, and I think they admired, is the fact that over the course of these last 2 years, we've tackled some big issues. We weren't afraid to confront some challenges and some hardships that had been present in this community for a number of years. And I think people respond positively to that.
Brian defeated Councilmember Lee Burgoyne, who risked his city council seat to run against the mayor. And here's what the mayor had to say about his opponent.
You know, I respect Mr. Burgoyne the same way I respect every individual who's a resident of this community, and he's an intelligent man. I've always said that. I've always made that clear, and I think he's a good family man, a good father, good husband, and I certainly wish him the best in all of his future endeavors.
Now, there were 3 council seats filled, but there were 4 candidates running, and the 4th was Sal Randazzo. Did you want to talk about that anymore?
Yeah, Sal Randazzo is a passionate candidate who I think is, I won't say he's a Tea Party candidate, but I think he values the Constitution. He talks a lot about reducing the role of government in people's lives, and I think his message resonates with a lot of people. And I talked to Sal, and he was actually pretty impressed with how many people voted for him. I think he got 890 votes or something like that, which, you know, didn't make him part of the 3 who got elected. Obviously, he was about 900 votes off, I think, but he was impressed with how he did, considering he didn't campaign and considering he really didn't even expect to be elected. He just wanted to move the debate.
Yeah, definitely, like you said, don't want to categorize them, but maybe even libertarian views a little bit. So.
Very much so. Yeah, absolutely.
So moving on, there was a council meeting last night, and one of the topics that came up was the beer garden that's going to be going in where Stone Arch was formerly located, and everything went through pretty well, right?
Yeah, well, Stone Arch is still going to be there until January 1st, and I think they're still doing events, and they got the Saline area players still there. So they're still operation, I think, until at least January 1st. But last night, and everybody I think in town is excited about the potential for this microbrewery and farm-to-table, I'm not sure what they call it, a farm-to-table restaurant.
Yeah.
And everyone's excited about that. And last night, City Council approved a rezoning that will allow a 75-seat outdoor beer garden. And I think the only concern that was raised at the City Council meeting last night was from Councilmember Roth, who questioned whether or not there would be too much noise that might disturb neighbors. And Ron Schofield, CEO of Salt Springs Brewery, said he's going to rely on some common sense and common courtesy to make sure that people behave themselves, and if there is an issue that they deal with it. And I was wondering what you thought of the idea of having a brewery here in town.
I mean, I'm excited about it. I think it's going to be filling a spot that we don't really have in the city at all. And hopefully it's great for business downtown and just adds to the dynamic downtown.
Yeah, and that's not the only brewery coming to town. There's another one. The Stony Creek is going next to in the old Thai restaurant. I forget what it was called, but next to the ACO, where the ACO was. So.
Yeah, and I'm failing to remember what he called it, but it's even smaller than microbrewery. No food, just beer. People are welcome to bring in food, but they're just focusing on brewing alcohol.
Right. So, Saline, I think, is going to develop maybe a reputation as a place to come eat food and drink beer with friends, because I think that's going to, and I think that's true of a lot of towns that attract people. It's a place to go be with friends and hang out.
Yeah, and we definitely have a small enough downtown that it's easy. You can just hop around between everything, and it should be exciting.
All right, and I think what was the next thing we were going to talk about there?
Yeah, so another part of the City Council meeting last night was that the school board, well, not the school board, but representatives from the school board and the schools came and talked about Houghton School.
Right, and this is, I think it's not going to be the last hoop that this project has to jump through, but this was an important one. The school district is selling the 9-acre old Houghton School property to Livonia Builders. I think they got $360,000 for the property, but the school district can make another $600,000. They'll get a percentage of the proceeds from the sale of each home, which is interesting because I think it kind of makes the school district, puts them in the real estate business a little bit, because the more I think they get for these homes, the more the school district will get. But I think even as much as $1 million sounds really nice, that's one-time money.
Mm-hmm.
The really important thing here for the district is that there could be, with 33 homes, there could be 30 kids or 25 kids or 40 kids. And with class sizes getting smaller in the young grades, they need to do something to stabilize enrollment, or Saline's going to be a smaller school district that doesn't have the ability to offer all these great programs that the kids here at Saline High School, for instance, have. So I think it's an important deal for the city, and it passed with flying colors, 7-0. David Rhodes and Dean Gearbaugh, or David Rhodes and Lieber Gorin, both kind of talked about how they want to maximize how many homes can go on this property, which I think the school district was probably glad to hear.
And the school district even sold the property with stipulations, correct, for what could go into that property.
Right. They want families in these homes, and they're working to make sure that they get them. So I think it's an exciting development for Saline. And I think for the city, they're looking at it from the property tax point.
Yeah.
Property tax dollars. The more homes there are, the more property taxes are collected, and the more they can continue to do what they're doing too.
Yeah, and if viewers want to find out more about it, we do have the school board meetings, which are taped by SCTN, and articles written up by Tran on the Saline Post, so you can go back and see exactly what the school board was thinking when they made those decisions.
That's right.
So speaking about the school board, one of your top articles was also in regards to the teacher contracts, and I'll let you talk about those, and I'll abstain from any kind of input on them.
The president of the Saline area, or Saline Education Association, Tim Tomozik, he was at the last school board meeting, and he made this comment for the board.
High school automotive technology instructor, SCA president. As you all know, I'm here virtually every single meeting. I sit back very quietly and very patient, and observe and watch, take it all in, and Mr. Holden was a very good, very efficient meeting, and I was pleased about it. And as you all know, we've been working on negotiations. My team has been prepared to work since last January. We didn't start till about April, and then worked all the way through spring, summer, fall, to this point where we are right now. And as I was trying to put together some thoughts for tonight, all I was thinking about was just how tired I am. I'm tired of going to bed every night thinking about this project I'm working on, this contract. I'm tired of waking up every morning and thinking about this contract. I'm tired of chasing a moving target from spring to summer to fall. It never seems to stay in one place. I'm tired of feeling like I'm just a number on a spreadsheet. I get emails from members who want to buy homes, who want to pay off their student loans, who want to move from their existing home and move into Saline, and they want to get a mortgage. And they want to know, are we eventually going to have a contract? Am I going to get my lane changed because I got a master's degree finally that I've been working on for 5 years? Is that going to come this year? And I take all of that to heart. Every single time I get an email like that, I take that personally because I feel like myself and my team have not yet delivered. The negotiation process is difficult at best, especially when we thought we were going to get $108, it's turned into $83, it's turned into $50, which really wasn't $50, $18. I understand the math. I understand the money is tight. I also understand that we had 10 to 12 people leave and that there was money associated with that. I think that we need to get serious about this. I think this has gone on way too long. I think that we have bargained in good faith. We have been collaborative. And I think that we have a very good working relationship with Kurt and with Scott. And I don't understand why this takes as long as it does. So I always said that I would not negotiate in public. I'm not. I'm not going to stand up here and talk about specific proposals. But my membership wants to be informed, and as of today, I informed them. So I think it's time that we progress. Thank you.
So if you look at that clip, you'll see a union president who looks a little bit tired of the process. He and a little frustrated. He's trying to get the best deal possible for his membership. And in fact, I think he's just trying to finalize something so at least teachers know whether they can go out and get that mortgage or pay off their student loans and are they going to get that lane change or the steps that they've been expecting. And so he's a little bit weary of the whole process. I think the thing that is controversial about it was the president of the Saline Area Schools Board of Education made this comment to the Saline Post after Tomozic's remarks, and this is quoting David Holden. He said, "We made a pledge, the union leadership, administration, and board, that we would not discuss the contract in the public or in the media. That trust was violated tonight. I don't think the membership was well served by union leadership." Without stirring the controversy a little bit, I think it's fair to say that some teachers weren't too happy with those remarks, and union leadership wasn't happy with those remarks as well. And I think for the first time there's a little bit of controversy around a union contract, which is different, because I don't know if you remember 2 years ago, it was pretty intense all the time, and this has been really quiet. This is the first we've heard of anything since June, so we'll see if we're going to hear more about this in the news in the coming weeks.
Yeah, and I'll leave that one up to you. I have no comment about this matter.
Yeah.
So jumping to a new topic, Saline Social Services has a new director.
Yes. Jamail Akins, he's replaced Don Dersna, who retired, and Don Dersna did a great job, I think, for the agency for a long time. Saline Area Social Service is an agency that supports Saline's poorer families, and by Saline I mean the school district for the most part. Saline's a wealthy community, and I don't think anybody in this town is actually doing enough to pay attention to the issues of the poor, and that includes the Saline Post. As part of the people who are not doing enough for that. So this agency is in trouble. It lost $75,000 in United Way funding last year, and that's basically 90% of its funding. So Director Jamel Akins has a tough job. He's coming into a brand new job, and he's basically fighting for the agency's life right here. And by doing that, he's fighting for an agency that's doing the only fighting for Saline's poor. I wouldn't say the only fighting, because a lot of churches do a lot of good, and there's a lot of agencies that do a lot of good. But they're the one I think that everybody thinks of.
Yeah, and recently Saline Rotary gave a donation to Saline Area Social Services. So there are groups, but definitely we should get out there and get the word out more and do anything we can. So.
For sure, and there's a lot of ways you can help. Saline Area Social Service is asking for families to sponsor families for Christmas, to sponsor families for Thanksgiving, as well as donations. Anybody can go to salineareasocialservice.com and find the donate page and make a donation to help keep the page going. And then, of course, the other thing that everybody knows about, or a lot of people know about, is the Saline Area Fire Department Toys for Tots drive. Chief Heft has already started that, and people can drop off toys at any of the school offices or at the fire department, or they can cut a check, and firefighters and their friends will go shopping, and that drive wraps up on December 14th, and all the volunteers will wrap up all the gifts and bring them by fire truck to the Saline Area Social Service. And I think it's a great program that everybody wants to see continue. So it's a interesting time for that agency for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
And I just want to, there was one quote. Bob Conradi interviewed Jamel Akins, and there was one quote here that I wanted to read, and I'm just going to access it here. Jamel is from the Detroit area, and he told this to Bob. He says, "I'm from Detroit, and this job is kind of personal for me because I grew up in poverty, and I came from a single-parent home, and I received assistance from agencies like Saline Area Social Services most of my young life." So this is something personal to him, and when something's personal to somebody, I think that makes them a lot more likely to reach their goals and make it work.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting to see what happens with them in the near future.
Yes, it will.
So, been some exciting things going on in Hornet sports lately.
Yeah, the big news I think last week was there were three big stories, but the biggest one is probably the Saline football team had their rematch with Monroe, and I think the game was tighter than most Saline people expected.
Yep.
It basically came down to the wire. Saline won 28-22. Jeb Polka ran for 2 touchdowns. Josh Jackson and Kevin Gross each threw for a touchdown and caught a touchdown. They threw. They did the old halfback pass for one of them, the trick play to start the game off. And this puts Saline in the regional final this Friday night at Hornet Stadium. And I think it's only the second time they've ever gone this far.
Yeah, definitely a far way up. We have had some comments from viewers who were hoping to see more live streams and tapings. Unfortunately, because of regulations, we haven't been able to provide that. So definitely look to Tran and the Saline Post to get good coverage on those.
Yeah, and look for the coverage, but more importantly, I think be there, just cheer on the team. The crowd's been pretty soft, and 2 weeks ago, it was Halloween, and it was rainy, and then snow, so you get a pass on that one. But last week the crowd was too soft, and Saline needs a big crowd there to make some noise. And because if Saline wins, they're in the Final Four for the first time ever. It'll be their first regional championship. Canton is their opponent, and they run like crazy. So it's going to be a great football game. And these guys are entertaining to watch, and Coach Polka always has them ready to go.
Yep, but we've got the home field advantage, so let's
That's
use
true.
that to our advantage.
Absolutely.
Volleyball also had some big news.
Yeah, volleyball. They reached the district championship. They beat Monroe. It was a good tournament for Saline. Early in the season, they lost at Monroe after losing to Bedford. And the loss to Bedford maybe in the regular season wasn't that big of a surprise because Bedford's ranked first in the state. But Saline has always been ranked high this year too, if not in the top 10, then getting honorable mention in these polls. So after they lost to Bedford, they lost to Monroe, and the team I think had to do some soul searching after that. So here we are a month later, and the tournament's at Monroe, and Saline has to play Monroe in the first round, and they swept them. They just annihilated them. And then they get to the district championship against Bedford. And Saline lost the first game, didn't play that well. They lost 25-16. I think they were down 19-14 in the second set, and you're like, it looks like they're going to go down here.
Yeah.
They pull that off with an incredible run. Abby Rose with some great serving. Izzy Parada with terrific defense, and Kara Rogers just killing everything with spikes.
Yeah.
And they won that game. They won the next game. They're up 2-1. They have the top-ranked team on the ropes, but it didn't go well. Bedford showed why they were the top-ranked team, and they came back to win that one. But it was a great performance by the Saline girls, and I think especially Izzy Parada and Kara Rogers. I think they had games that opened everybody's eyes, and both of those girls are going to play college volleyball too.
Yeah, and I'm sure they'll succeed very well at that.
Yeah. It was a great run for them here at Saline High School, that's for sure.
So lastly, in sports, the girls swim and dive team also did exceptionally well recently.
Yeah, and it's another example of a team that lost earlier in the year to a team and had to come back. Only 2 or 3 weeks ago, they lost at Saline to Skyline in one of the head-to-head SEC meets, and it was the first time Saline had lost an SEC meet in forever. And then last Saturday, they had the SEC meet with all the teams here, and they got some swimmers back who had some health issues, like Sarah Burkhardt, a freshman who came out of nowhere and had a great Saturday. And then and they won the whole thing, mostly because of their depth. Amelia Armstrong-Grant, Allison Eppinga, and Lizzie Spears, another freshman, and Alex McPherson and Kelsey Holmberg all swam well. But the big story was their divers. Saline has 3 of the best divers in the state. They have the defending state champion who won it as a sophomore, Amy Stevens. Another sophomore, Cam McPherson, just beat Amy Stevens' school record and the pool record for diving. So they got all these record setters along with Miranda Eberly, who's another probably top 10 in the state caliber diver. And they won the SEC meet, and that's the 6th year in a row now that Saline has either won or shared the SEC red title. So good job, Saline Hornets there.
And as of airing this, or taping it I should say, it's Veterans Day, so we definitely want to say thank you to anyone who's served, but then talk about some of the ways they've been honored in the city.
Yeah, only 2 weeks ago at the board meeting, Louis Comet, Saline Township resident, he grew up on a farm south of Saline. He went and worked at the Bomber Factory and didn't graduate then, and then he was drafted into the Army and served in the South Pacific with the Army Corps of Engineers. So he learned that if you didn't get your diploma when you were serving in World War II, he read in an article somewhere that you could apply for it. And he applied for it, and 2 weeks ago, he got it. Here's the video.
Pleasure to award a diploma to Louis Keith Cammett. Louis was a Saline area school or Saline school student back in the early 40s. Went to work in a bomber plant and later was drafted and served the war and was unable to return to Saline High School to receive his diploma. He's applied for it and will be receiving tonight his diploma dated June 1st, 1943. Signed by the superintendent, principal, president, and secretary, none of whom were around on June 4th, 1943. But yet we're very proud and honored to call you a Saline Hornet. Congratulations. Congratulations. Yep.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Wow, well, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it was I think it was you know, we talked about something a little bit controversial earlier today, but this is one of those stories you're glad to see.
And then the last thing is the New Horizons Band did a special show as well.
Yeah, the New Horizons and several Saline area schools choirs did a veterans tribute. I think it was November 2nd at Saline High School here. And we'll finish off our first edition with this video of Saline High School vocal music instructor Sarah Price singing along with Saline New Horizons Band.
Yeah, so before we show it, just make sure to get in contact with us. Let us know what you think of the show, and please enjoy this video.